What's up, strongest men, women, and children from blocks all around the world? I am my block's strongest man, and I have an exceptionally special guest for you tonight. I consider him a mentor and the godfather of interviewing and strongman knowledge. Big Loz, Laurence Shahlaei. What's up, Loz? Thanks for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Ciao, homie.
So, shall we move into World's Strongest Man talk?
Let's do it.
All right. So, I've only released groups 1 and 2. You've released them all so far, and I got to tell you, with all due respect, I'm with Liz. We got to do this scientifically, or at least I do, because I don't have your level of intuition and experience.
Liz's approach is very good. Liz's knowledge on strongman is probably better than mine in terms of knowing results, and a lot of that's because when I was competing, I wasn't looking at what the other guys were doing. I was focusing on what I should be doing. Whereas Liz has kind of put a lot of research and she's watched so many. I've watched as well, but she just seems to remember it all. So you've put your points in already. I like this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this is where you're going to
show this to Liz.
This is where you're going to yell at me because I have Brian far too low.
Oh my goodness! What the hell is this?
So
he's gone crazy.
Listen, I'll take being roasted by you over being roasted by anybody else any day of the week. So this is fine. I need your opinion here. So I have Max winning. I have partially because JF told me how good he is. I have Ivar's going in second, and then I have Graham and Brian tied. But how do you count that back? Is it the last event that happened?
It is at World's Strongest Man. Normally, in most competitions, it would be on countback. So it would go on positions. But at World's Strongest Man, it is just on the previous event. So what have we got? Overhead medley? No, the pickaxe hold.
So it would be pickaxe. So I think Graham will outperform Brian in the pickaxe, but you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Look, Graham has some of the strongest shoulders on the planet, and I've never lost to him at a front hold.
All right, then. I may have to revisit.
The pickaxe hold is a very difficult event to predict, though. You know, it's one of those events. One time a guy can be really good at it. The next time they might be rubbish. It's a weird event. Someone like Travis could be amazing at it. And I see you've got him down at, last place on it. He's crazy enough to just hold on and hold on and hold on. And it's such a weird event because you look at it logically and you think the guy with short arms and strong shoulders should win this.
That's what I did.
But it doesn't, Yanni Vertonen was incredible at this event. And he was not built for it. Mark Felix is really good at this type of event. And Mark's not a presser. His shoulders aren't strong. And then you'd have someone like Lalas.
I literally gave Mark 4 points because you said that he's good at this.
Yeah. I mean, someone like Lalas. I remember competing against Lalas in the Champions League. And we used to have to do a lot of front holds in that. And he was not very good at all. And Lalas has some of the strongest shoulders I've ever seen. It's a very weird event. So it's probably the one set of results you've got there that you might be right with because you just don't know.
It's so difficult. I was just thinking Brian has, long, heavy arms to keep up in addition to the weight. And maybe that's why I gave him 3 points. I didn't put him last. But if Brian wins the pickaxe, that could change this whole dynamic. Then he gets into a stone off. Then he wins the stone off and gets in.
See, I think Brian wins the medley, the overhead medley.
I've heard that I'm not giving him enough credit there. I've certainly given him
enough credit.
I'm giving him lots of credit on the
points. 2 points on the overhead medley.
Well, he's the best on the dumbbells.
He's the best on the dumbbell. He's the best on the barbell, and he's the best on the axle.
If you say so, I believe you. All right.
I promise you.
All right, we'll redo it then.
And Hicksy is one of my absolute best friends. I love Hicksy. If this was Log for Max, I'd be backing him 100%. But Hicksy hates the axle. He's really, really not good at it because I've never lost an axle to Hicksy.
Okay.
And Hicksy is way stronger than I am in the shoulders. This is, I beat Eddie Hall on an overhead medley, and I'm nowhere near as strong as Eddie on a log, for instance, or any type of press for that matter. and Brian is exceptionally good at adapt. Although he's a bit methodical and can be a bit slow, I think hopefully the weights are heavy enough that he will just blitz through each implement. If you go back and look at the times they've done overhead medleys at World's Strongest Man, he's always scored pretty well.
All right, fair enough. We'll have to come back with a redo here.
Fingers. You put Brian at number one. I agree with you that.
Yeah.
Maxime, I've never seen do fingers, so that's a tricky one.
I saw him train with a 525-pound finger for 2 reps, so I didn't really.
Do you know who's pretty decent at fingers in his prime was Travis.
All right then, yeah. Travis unfortunately was prepping with it while his back was hurt, so it was hard to tell.
Yeah, he's hurt himself, hasn't he?
I think he's recovered now, but at that particular moment, yeah, he was hurt, so it was hard to judge whether he'd be okay in time for Worlds. I would love for Travis to go to the, I've had him on my show. He's an awesome guy. I would love him to go to the final.
The squat's an interesting one as well. So you've got Hicksy winning the squat, Ivers and Maxime, and Brian. Is that joint?
Yes.
We'll see. It's all good. This is the fun bit of Strongman is trying to figure out how we think everyone will do. Brian Shaw, last time I saw him do the squat of World's Strongest Man was the 2017 final. And Brian ran out of time. He didn't run out of strength.
That's my thinking as well. I just feel like Graham is considerably shorter and can get through the reps quicker. It's just a range of motion thing.
Graham is an exceptional squatter. He doesn't like squatting on the axle, just because of his mobility. I think if it was a squat for max, or they were using a safety bar, Hicksy would destroy everyone. I think on this axle, Brian will get actually into it better than some of the other guys. Liz thinks that Schmuckstellis is very good at squatting. So
okay.
He is.
I believe you.
Hi, Liz.
Hi.
And Maxime's a great squatter as well. So the squat is a tough one to predict, but I think the fact that I like that this year the squat and deadlift are the second event, because there's none of this kind of, we'll take it easy. These guys are going to have to push it, and that will be interesting as well, because if you push on a squat for reps, this is from personal experience, if you really go to the well, you can mess up the rest of the competition.
I would imagine.
It's a brutal event. It's more brutal than deadlift for reps. So this is one where, do they push and risk killing their bodies for the whole competition, or are they smart and saving energy? It's a very difficult predicament for the guys to be in.
Yeah, and what did we say? I forget what you said for weight. Is it around 700 pounds, a bit above that?
I think so. It's normally around that. I'm not actually 100% sure what weight they're using, but that's a good rough guide of what it's been the last few years.
All right. So what do you think of Group 2 here? I have Evan running away with that one, and Trey Mitchell winning a stone off and going with him.
You got Trey Mitchell in. You got Johnny Hansen in second. I see.
I'm waiting for you to find the elephant in the room here and yell at me again.
Well, the deadlift, Evan's deadlift recently pulled 430, didn't he? 950 pounds. That was very impressive. But it's no better than some of the other guys in there. And it depends what bar they use. Evan used a very, very whippy bar with quite long straps to make it easier. I see all these tricks that all the guys do. And look, I absolutely love Evan. Before I saw this group, I was like, Evan's getting to the final. He's going to smash it. I saw this group and I was like, this is not good. He needs to win the group. He really does. And he's capable of that.
He needs to win the group because he suffers a little bit on stones.
Especially coming back from a torn bicep.
Right.
And with possibly two of the best stone lifters in the same group. You know, you don't really want to be against Trey or Tom on a stone off.
Right.
So
right.
I feel if Evan's going to get through, which he is capable of, he needs to win the group, which, as you know, he's definitely got a chance. Tom is I believe if Tom comes in shape, he's a legitimate contender for the podium. It just depends which Tom turns up. If Tom turns up like he was at World's Strongest Man last year, Tom is getting to that final and he's going to smash it. If Tom turns up like he was in Bahrain, it could be harder to predict. And that's the only issue with Tom. He's not, for me, certain athletes, you just know they're always going to be in shape. Whereas Tom, because of his autism and things like that, sometimes little things can just get to him. But I think he's in good shape. His deadlift is improving all the time. I think his overhead medley, I mean, he won the log in the final last year. He's looked a lot better than Luke in training on the overhead medley. I really don't see Tom scoring badly on the overhead medley at all. And you've only given him 2 points.
Okay.
I think Evan possibly could beat him, but looking at I think it'll be a battle between those two. I don't think Johnny Hansen beats Tom on the overhead. Johnny is a great strongman, but he's only been a great strongman in Sweden. He's not proven it in enough international competitions yet. And he hasn't done a huge amount. I mean, obviously he missed out on Worlds last year, but the last couple of Worlds that he's done, he's never performed as well as people have expected. And World's Strongest Man is a very different competition, as I've said many times. So I find it hard to think that Johnny is going to come in second place in this group.
You feel like Tom's a better presser than Trey?
I think Tom is better on a medley.
Okay.
As long as he holds the lockout on the dumbbell. I watched Tom and Luke training the overhead medley. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we all know how good Luke is at pressing. Tom was better.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
And Luke is a better log lifter. That's as simple as that. But with the transitions, Tom was cleaning the axle easier. He was cleaning the barbell easier. He just looked a lot more efficient on each. He just looked confident, to be honest. And I think his static strength is getting better and better all the time. So I think he'll score very well on that.
Well, I have to give Luke the nod on the pickaxe hold, though. He did about 40 some odd seconds, and Tom did like 15 seconds.
Luke is much, much better built for the pickaxe hold. And I agree with you, kind of looking at the results. I think Evan, he's got that mental toughness to win the pickaxe hold for sure. Mark Felix is very good on that. I've seen you put him in second place. Yep. It's a tough group because I love Mark, as you probably know by now. Mm-hmm. And it's not actually bad events for Mark, this. A frame into a loading medley, Mark can move. His deadlift is extremely good if it's a little bit lighter. I mean, Mark's won the deadlift more times than anyone at World's Strongest Man. And when it comes to reps, I don't think anyone in that group can beat him, if I'm quite honest.
I think Mark would have been, in my opinion, in a better position if he got Fingal's fingers, because I saw him practicing and he just seemed like very nonchalantly moving a very large finger.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Yeah? Mark is terrible at fingers.
Okay. Maybe it was a light finger.
This is the thing. A lot of the guys will show videos because they're trying to make people think that they're better than they are. And I see this with all the guys. But I know when it comes down to those heavier things in competition, how people have performed.
Yep.
Certainly guys that I've competed against, obviously. Mark is not good at fingers. He's better off with a train pull.
Okay. Good to know.
Mark's biggest issue is going to be the overhead medley. I think no one's going to argue there with Mark being at 1 point on that event. I would be extremely surprised if he can do anything better than that on that event. So coming last in a group on any event, it's going to make you struggle for sure.
All right. So group 3, what do we think about group 3?
Ooh, interesting. Another interesting one. Wow. So you got JF Caron running away with this group.
I won't pretend that I'm not a huge fan of his and want him to win.
This is where you and me differ. I am a huge fan of a lot of these guys, and I never let that affect my prediction.
Yeah, no, I don't either. It's really tough because he doesn't show anything on Instagram.
Yeah,
so I had to kind of go by
the security camera videos of
I had to go by what he's done in the past, and like we all know he's an incredible deadlifter, so I had to go by some circumstantial evidence and things like that. But yeah, if you feel like he's not going to win some of these,
oh my goodness,
definitely let me know
these squat results. Looking at this. You've got Robert Oberst coming second on the squad. My goodness. This is just
I have
blasphemy.
to be kind to him somewhere.
Oh, I'm kind to him, but I will happily make a bet with you now that Luke Richardson does not get beat by Robert Oberst on the squat.
No,
Luke Richardson could win the squat in this group. He is incredible squatter.
If I have not been clear to this point, I am here to learn from you. whatever you say is correct. I am not taking any bets.
I don't know about that, but I'm unless he gets injured, Luke Richardson is beating Oberst on the squat.
Okay.
Let's just put it into perspective. Last time I did a squat against Robert, I did 9 reps. Robert did 2.
Fair enough.
Robert is slightly better at squatting than he is at deadlifting, but Robert is not good at squatting or deadlifting at world's strongest man level. He's good at pressing. He's got a great grip. He's got some certain events he's very good at, but his static strength in terms of squat and deadlift are not good enough. I wouldn't be surprised if Robert was last in that group on the squat.
Here's my counter argument. I have the right result. I have Luke going through and not Robert.
You've got Luke going through and not Robert. Okay. It's an interesting group, this one, for sure. I think JF is rightly the favorite. Shivlikov, I love Shivlikov, and I think he's a great strongman, just notoriously doesn't do that well at World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
And there's a few guys like that you watch them in one-day shows and you're like, this guy's amazing. And then it comes to World's Strongest Man and they just don't perform. And he seems to be, one of those guys. I think overall, it could well turn out like this. I think JF is the favorite. I would say Luke and JF get through that group for sure.
Okay. And then what do we think of group 4?
So a lot of people are talking about this being the group of death.
Really? Chris van der Linde is another one who I interviewed him, and he told me he's purposely not showing anything. So it's we all know he's a good deadlifter, and that's about all we know.
Yeah, he's someone that I don't know a huge amount about. So it's always hard to predict. But the one thing I will say, I know how important experience at World's Strongest Man is. Mm-hmm. And I know how... You got to remember, I've competed at Worlds 11 times. I know how different it is. I know that they'll tell people they need to be ready at a certain time, and then they'll tell them, oh, no, we're going to wait now. We need to send the drone up. Oh, no, the cameras aren't ready for that. And if you're not used to that, it's very off-putting. Sure. That's why it's very rare. If I haven't seen a guy compete at Worlds before, I just can't put them as a favorite to get through their group. I think the last guy I saw come into Worlds on his first appearance and make the final was Lissis. And Lissis, obviously, we all know how good he is. Yeah. But not many people do it. Not even, Novikov could do it. Zadrunas couldn't do it. It's even Brian Shaw couldn't do it. There's been some incredible strongmen that their first time at Worlds is a learning experience. Saying that, Luke Richardson made the final last year in his first appearance, so true. It's doable.
Johnny Hansen's been at Worlds once before, right?
I think he's been twice.
Twice? Okay.
Yeah. I think he's been... Has Johnny been twice to Worlds or once?
Johnny Hansen's been twice.
Twice. Okay. Liz says twice, so I'm going to go with her. But I'm not 100% sure. This is a very tough group. And the real question will be, what shape is Janasha in? I think Janasha in shape is a hell of a strongman. He really is.
Yeah, so I asked JF that question. I said, are we going to get the Janasha from Wuss or the Janasha from Siberian Power Show? And he answered me with 2 words. He said, very dangerous.
He is very dangerous, particularly as an unseeded athlete. I'm sure Jerry, Bishop, Terry, when they saw they had Janasha in their group, they're like, oh, crap. Because if he is in shape, Janasha is legitimate contender. It's just, is he in shape?
Right.
And the Siberian show is so different to World's Strongest Man. It's really hard to say. But yeah, I think it's going to be a battle between... This could be the closest group in terms of all the guys. I think, if Jerry turns up like he did last year, I can't see him not getting through.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very good. He really impressed me last year. He's a great squatter and deadlifter. His pressing is very good. He's big and heavy, so I think his fingers can be good. He's got no real weakness in these events. He's decent on frame. He's not bad at loading, and his stones are decent as well. So I'd be surprised if Jerry doesn't get through. I think then we've got a battle between Janasha, Terry, and Bish. If Janasha turns up like he was in Bahrain, he's not getting through. If he turns up when he came fourth at Worlds and we know what he's capable of, he's a nightmare for Adam Bishop.
So I've heard a little bit of talk about this as well. What do you feel about the fairness of putting Bish and Terry Hollins in the same group, being that they train so much together?
It is what it is. You can't, I've been in the same group as a lot of my friends before. They won't care. Obviously, when there's more than 5 British guys or American guys, you're going to end up in a group against someone. It was either put those two in against each other or possibly put the Stoltmans against each other. If they put the Stoltmans in against each other, there would be a lot more of an uproar.
That's true. That's a good point. So moving on to Group 5, which a lot of people think is the most challenging group. I think Group 1 is the most challenging group. But what do you think of Group 5? Who's going through here? I think everyone would say Alexei's going through.
I think so. Alexei has really proven to be an incredible all-round athlete the last couple of years. I cannot see him not getting through. I think, to be honest, I think he'll win the group. I really do. He was very dominant last year in his group and performed incredibly in the final. When I saw him in Bahrain this year, he just looked like he was even better. Obviously, he's got, sadly, his dad passed away recently, but I think he's the kind of guy that will be motivated to do even better because of that.
Wasn't it his grandfather last year?
Yes, grandfather last year.
Terrible.
And, poor guy, but he'll want to kind of, do it for his father for sure. Bobby really has impressed me the last year or so. Incredible strength. Kevin, incredible strongman. Luke Stoltman, Gav Bilton getting better all the time. This is a hell of a tough group. It really is. Let's have a look at your scores, because look, we can do our predictions, but we could be totally wrong. It's a very, very tough group. A frame into the loading medley. Bobby mid-table, possibly Alexei and Kevin. I would say those two, top 2 for sure on that event.
And they can transpose.
Yes, I think Kevin is exceptionally good on the frame. He's quick. Alexei is more than capable of winning that though as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they are the top 2 on that. I think Luke could pip Bobby on that. Bobby's speed isn't his strength, to be honest. But Luke's frame isn't his strength either. If it was just loading, I would pick Luke for sure. But it depends how quick Luke is on the frame. Deadlift. Bobby won the deadlift in Bahrain, didn't he?
Yes.
But that was a higher
Bobby's deadlift has been huge lately.
Bobby's deadlifting and Bobby's pressing and deadlift are massive. Yeah, I think Bobby is probably the smart choice for the deadlift. Kevin's a great deadlifter. Do we know what deadlift it is that they do?
No, I don't think we do.
If it's, they've called it the hack deadlift, haven't they? Is that in the final or just the
No, the knack is in the final.
The heats? No.
Yeah, the knack is in the final.
Yeah. Because I think that deadlift will suit Alexei a lot more than the group deadlift.
I agree.
Fingal's finger, that's another hard one to predict. I mean, Gav Bilton is built for that. Being taller is a massive advantage in that event. Alexei's looked really good. I think Alexei comes out on top out of the others for sure. Overhead medley, I don't think Luke Stoltman wins, if I'm honest.
Okay, tell me why.
Because I've been watching his overhead medley on his videos, and he's not looked as confident as he should. And again, it comes back to it's a different event. If it was a if it was a log for max, you'd say Luke or Bobby take that. I'd probably still pick Luke over Bobby on a log for max. Overhead medley, someone like Novikov could win. Extremely good at the transitions. The weights are a bit lighter, so he's absolutely fine. He's more athletic. He'll move quicker between objects. His dumbbell's unbelievable. He's very fast and explosive in the terms of way he presses. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win. Pickaxe hold, another tough one. This group, who knows who wins the pickaxe hold in this group?
Yeah, as I said, Luke looked good with pickaxe, but compared to nobody, like I had no point of comparison on whether his time was good or it wasn't.
I mean, if you go on, last time I did Britain's Strongest Man, Eddie Hall won the front hold. I was second on it. Mark Felix was third.
Okay.
And then you had guys like Hicksey, Luke Stoltman. Now, this is going back a few years ago, but looking at the results from the last few years that they've done on the same implement, results haven't changed all that much. It's a real weird one as well. You see some guys train the front hold week in, week out, and they get worse. You see some guys not train it at all, and they're still really good. It's a very random event. So it's not an event I like seeing at World's Strongest Man, if I'm totally honest, because it's one of those events people that don't even train in the gym can sometimes beat a strongman, particularly if they've got an injury. So like if you've kind of, got a small, like a meniscus tear or something in your shoulder,
right?
Which some of the guys do, it doesn't affect their log, but on an event like that, it can have quite an impact.
Yeah, I heard Brian make an argument like that. He said, I don't know how this is a measure of strength, but
it's really not,
It's endurance.
Yes. So it's not my favorite event, but as it's the event before the Stones, they're all going to be trying their bollocks off to hold it as long as possible, because no one's going to be wanting to be in the stone off. And I think looking at the group, Luke and Alexei are the best two stone lifters. So if Bobby wins the group, which is a possibility, I think Alexei versus Luke on the stone off could be very, very interesting. I think Alexei comes out on top, and I think my heart says Luke, but honestly, I think.
But we don't pick that way, you and I.
No. I don't think Bobby gets through. I think Kevin and Luke are better stone lifters than Bobby. If Alexei wins the group, Bobby needs to win the group to get through.
Okay, fair enough. So you feel it'll be Alexei and Kevin or Luke?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if Bobby won the group. And I know I'm kind of chickening out a little bit. I just think I do genuinely believe it's very competitive. I think it's going to be a great group to watch. Terrible for the guys competing. We'll enjoy watching it, though.
Have you done finals predictions yet?
No. I will wait until I see who's in, and we can have a look at yours if you like.
All right, let me blow it up a little bit so we can see it a little better. All right, so that's my now I realize I must have gone wrong somewhere, because there's no way that JF wins by that many points.
Man, you love JF more than I do. So we got the giant medley, which is the frame and yoke, yes?
Yes, and by the way, that gray object at the bottom is my hypothetical. If Brian had gotten through, I think he would have come second. And I think I think these events are way better for him than the groupings and the qualifiers.
Interesting. So who have we got there then? Interesting. The keg toss. Got Trey Mitchell winning the keg toss.
He did some crazy things in Texas Strongest Man with kegs.
He did, but that was Texas Strongest Man.
Okay.
That was, I think was Pena second in that?
I only have Trey winning because Brian's not here, or else he would easily win the keg toss.
This is the really interesting thing with World's Strongest Man, because people have been, we just, we did a video on whether people will break the log lift record. I think there's a good chance a lot of the big log lifters don't make the final. And, I think ideally for records to go at World's Strongest Man now, particularly with the level that we're getting to, it needs to be done early on in the contest. If it was
For
event
sure.
1, maybe, but event 3 in the final, I think that
No, they'll be too fatigued.
I agree. Log for Max, who've we got winning that? Bobby Thompson. Out of those guys, yeah, you can't disagree. Bobby, although you got Jerry Pritchett down there. Wow.
I do. Where did I go wrong? Tell me, because he did much better than this last year.
Yeah, well, his log is much better than that to start with. He won the log in his group, and he had some good log pressers in there. Where have you gone wrong? I'd say Bobby first is a fair shout. Max second. Then who have we got third? JF Curran. See, JF is not that good at the log. He didn't do well at the log last year at all, which was, disappointing. I was hoping he would have done better than he did. But I can't see him being third in the final on the log.
I call last year a fluke.
Hopefully, yeah. Let's hope you're right. And this is something that we can kind of discuss here about where we think people will come. But the reality is they've got to compete. They've got to cope with the conditions. They've got to cope with the food that's being provided. Some of the guys like Brian will bring his own food. You've got to make sure you're sleeping well. There's so many little factors that go into performances that as fans, we don't always see. And, it's why sport is fun. We don't know what will happen. It's fun to make these predictions, but at the end of the day, your predictions could be totally wrong. My predictions can be totally wrong, and that's what's so great about strongman and about all sports. It's fun, but I do enjoy these little, chats and see who.
Absolutely. It's all in good fun for sure. And as far as the food, you must be referring to the vegan food that will be provided this year.
It did make me laugh when I saw that. It really made me laugh. And I took it as it probably is that it's going to be an option on the menu. I'm pretty sure there'll be other things for the guys to have. Doesn't really make sense to me at a World's Strongest Man competition. Obviously, it's a sponsor that's come on board.
Right.
That's great. But you don't have one vegan in the competition.
Right.
The only vegan strongman I know is Patrick Bobamian. Mm-hmm. He's not competing. It's a sport that the guys eat meat. So great that these guys have come on board as a sponsor. If it helps put more money in towards it, then that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And maybe some of the guys will eat some, but it won't stop them eating the meat as well. So if I was going, particularly as a real contender, these days I'd take a Brian Shaw approach and I'd be taking my own food.
Right.
And I didn't used to do that, but the sport's really come on now. And, I've started kind of working with a nutritionist, and I realize eating a certain type of food and your body gets used to eating that type of food. You don't then want to suddenly change your diet because that can upset your stomach and throw you off in terms of performance. And the guys are a lot more scientific and professional now. I think most of them will be very selective on the food that they eat.
Yeah, certain guys too. I've heard Bobby talk about having a sensitive stomach. So certain guys, I think, have to really pay attention to that sort of thing.
Oh, definitely. It's like a lot of kind of new guys ask me, what do you eat on the day of a competition? I don't change my breakfast on the day of a competition to my breakfast every day because I know that works. If you're staying in a hotel and you have a big, cooked breakfast or something and you're not used to it, that can upset your stomach, leave you dehydrated if you get, the shits and stuff like that. That's going to affect your performance. So you need to be very careful. They're not there to be on holiday. They're there to do the job. So all these little factors come into play.
So what do we think about this knack deadlift? Are they going to be toolboxes on the end or something like that?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's an elevated deadlift and they're going to put these boxes on to please the sponsor. But essentially, as JF would say, it's a deadlift.
Yeah.
Or an elevated deadlift in this case.
I don't see how there's any way he doesn't win that event, especially after watching what happened at the Shaw Classic last year.
Looking at who you've got in that, I would say, yeah. If that is the list of finalists, JF will be hard to beat on the deadlift.
Yeah, so I have JF, then Bobby, and then many guys tied for the third number of reps, or it's actually max weight, right?
It is, and it'll come down to weights, that the organizers pick. and that's sometimes an interesting thing. You will get a lot of ties for sure on that type of event.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry could be bumped up a little bit there to be whatever the tie with Bobby would be.
Well, Jerry against JF for the Shore Classic, that was awesome on the Hummer deadlift.
That was unbelievable. That was it reminded me of, so Shivlikov is famous for the effort he gives on deadlift, and Jerry reminded me of that. Like, he was turning red and just gave, because he had the second attempt at it and had nothing left. Like, he just gave everything of himself, and it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, it was good.
Titans turntable. How do we predict this, Loz? Tell me, because I did my best. Tall, heavy guys. I don't know. How do we do this?
Normally, something like that, you would go with that. You'd think who the guys that are good at truck pulling. But when you look at the Arnolds, where they do the wheel of pain, hasn't always worked out in the same way. The endurance in that event seems to be quite a factor. Because
yeah, I believe Novikov's done well at the Arnold's with a type of event like this, right?
I honestly, Novikov doesn't have a weakness.
Yeah,
he really doesn't. People are saying his deadlift's a weakness. Well, we know on an elevated deadlift he's exceptionally good.
Right.
He's improved his deadlift off the floor, and he just seems to be one of those guys that when he has to, he pulls it out the bag. He figures events out. I think these events where the guys haven't had a chance to train too much on, he becomes very hard to beat. So I can see him doing very well on that. Janasha, you got winning. I don't see that.
Okay.
Janasha's endurance on the whole isn't so good. He's not a bad truck puller by any means, but will that be enough on this event? That's, time will tell. Tough one.
Do we know where the hand placement is going to be? Would it be like the wheel of pain where it's kind of up high, or sort of a waist level?
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's going to be a certain position they've got to have their hands under or over. Hopefully we'll find all these things out. But so far, I don't know too much about it. All I know is they've got to push this train track, if you like, around in a circle.
Right. Yes. And then Atlas Stones. So Brian wins this if he's here. But Max has been doing a lot of great stuff with Atlas Stones. He told me he wanted to get up to a 500-pounder by the time World's Strongest Man came around. JF's been bragging like crazy about how much improvement Max has done with Stones, so I had to give him a lot of credit there.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to prove it in competition first.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of guys that do impressive things in the gym. And, I know so many guys that have done... I've lifted a 220-kilo stone in the gym.
Okay.
And I'm by no means the best stone lifter out there, not at all. I've failed 400-pound stones in competitions many times. It's Atlas Stones, again, hot conditions. Does the tacky stick properly? Are the stones dusty? How long have they been out in the sun? All these little things change how they'll feel on the day. And the stones at Worlds are normally very, very tough. So what people are doing in the gym, I don't really care, because it goes back to that experience of competing so many times. I go on what people have done in competition consistently. Mm-hmm. Brian is an exceptional stone lifter. We know that. He's done it time and time again. He's done this set of stones time and time again. I think JF has performed very well on the stones at World's Strongest Man the last few years. Novikov, his stones are improving. I don't think he's the best stone lifter. He's certainly getting better. He looked a lot better at one of the best performances I've seen from him on the stones. Trey Mitchell is a very good stone lifter.
Very good stone lifter.
Ivers, his stones are looking very, very good. So, yeah, I think you've got most of the right people there on the stones for sure. It just depends. I've got some different names in the final, and that can throw things up again. So it's why I haven't predicted anything for the final yet, because I need to see who's in the final. Then, you could have a few different guys in there could completely change, say, the log for Max. If, say, a Luke Stoltman's in there and a Graham Hicks, it changes things drastically.
Absolutely.
Same with the deadlift. You could have Adam Bishop in there. His deadlift is exceptional. Mm-hmm. The keg toss for height, Tom Stoltman is the only guy I see even getting remotely close to Brian on that type of event. And I actually think the keg toss for height is better for Brian than the keg toss for speed.
I agree. Yeah, because Tom has beaten him for speed before, right? But I think
Tom
Brian's pretty untouchable for height.
Yeah, Tom beat him last year. A couple, I guess Brian gets criticized for being too methodical, whereas when it's about the height, and I believe even if they make a mistake, they get another throw. So I think that suits Brian tremendously. That's a big advantage for him. It's going to be a great competition. I think there's a good set of events, particularly in the final. I think, there's no events in there that you look at and think, well, that's not a good test of strength. There's a good variety in there. The heat's still a couple of events you think, oh, is that really about strength? But I like the events in the final. I think it's going to really be a great competition.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you going through all that with me and doing some analysis and letting me know where maybe I went a little wrong. And as we wind down today, I want to talk about your upcoming competition, the Strongman Classic, and what are the events there? Which are the ones you think suit you the best? You're excited about it? Let's talk about that a little bit. So if you like this video and haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing using that button right there. And also stay tuned for some other videos that you might love blooping up right there. This one is the one that YouTube thinks that you will like the best, and this one is the one that I think you will like the best. As always, share this with everyone, and until next time, ciao, homie.